Dear mental health ally, so we finally meet. You may be a father, a mother, a lover, or a friend. There's a lot I have to clear, and this might offend.
You see, my condition is not a switch you can turn off at will. I'm on top of it all and then I tumble downhill. I cannot tell you when, I cannot tell you why, I cannot tell you where, I cannot tell you what I will feel like tomorrow.
Dear mental health ally, I've had enough of being told which celebrity shares this condition I hold. All I hear about is this link with being creative. But how can you create in a state so vegetative? You know there is nothing that I wouldn't say to have a single night where I'm not afraid. I'd love to see you finally find that being patronizing is far from kind.
Dear mental health ally, I do not need your creepy gurus to milk my label, some Oprah or Chopra with their spiritual fable. I may be crazy, but it's so easy to see the money they make off of people like me. Some patent happiness and others patent divinity. Everything works with Shri 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 to the power of infinity.
I was pretty good at statistics and regression until I was made to sit on that chair for a session of some mumbo jumbo hypnosis crap, telling me that I'll be okay. Did you not see that trap?
Hi, so we're here talking to Rachna and Rohan, who are the founders of Crayon Impact and Mine in India. So guys, why don't you tell us a bit about Crayon Impact and what's the idea behind this?
So Crayon Impact started earlier this year in Feb, and it's been in the works for about a year and a half since Rohan and I met. And so Crayon Impact works in two main spaces. One of it is on-ground events. So we conceptualize, design and curate high-impact on-ground events using the performing arts like spoken word poetry, stand-up comedy, music and theatre. And each event has an underlying social cause that is really strong. And the main causes that we work around is disability, mental health, gender, and sexuality.
So what personally drove you guys to become social entrepreneurs?
I would think the fact that number one, with causes like disability and mental health, the charity model has been working so far, only because we find it quite patronizing. And people with disabilities or mental health issues still face the same problems. The nomenclature changes every couple of years, the names change, and suddenly something is more politically correct, but people still cannot get into the building. So we think that actually having that sort of an effect and making quality of life better, because as a person with a mental disorder myself, I find that today it's still difficult for me to get employment. So I've never really been able to have a job as such, because corporate mandates and rules don't allow for people like me who sometimes may not be able to function on certain days. So we are very high functional, we are very productive, but unfortunately India doesn't understand that yet. So I think right now talking about dignity in labor and work is something that drives us more than anything. So while we are using the arts, we also want to convey messages that people, say for example with Asperger's syndrome, are really high functioning and can be really good app developers, for example. And the only mandate that one has to change is the company's mandate around it.
Tell us about this event, like the kind of events you guys have, spoken word poetry, comedy. So how does it work to kind of dispel myths that we have currently in the society?
So there are many, over these few months we've figured a few key criteria that adds to the success of an event. The first stage is where we conceptualize it. So right now December 3rd is the International Day for Persons with Disabilities, and so everyone around the world, especially the United Nations ratified countries for disability, celebrate this. And one area that is majorly underlooked in the whole discourse in disability is sexuality, right? Because when you see a person with disability, if they are on a wheelchair, we sometimes only focus on the wheelchair and we don't realize that they're a human first, and we don't even consider them as sexual beings with the same desires and urges just because the disability and that identity takes precedence. So this is the issue we're going to deal with in the next event. The next event is called Sex and Sexability. And it is a stand-up comedy event where we have Aditi Mittal, who is coming on her avatar. She'll be coming on board as Dr. Mrs. Luchike, which is her avatar that she uses in a lot of her feminist comedy sets. And
I'll be doing my set on institutionalization in Bombay. I was institutionalized a couple
Can we get a bit of it?
So I do
Give us a bit of what we can expect on that day.
I basically, it's very self-deprecating. It's sort of like, because mental hospitals in this city, number one, people, when they think of mental hospitals, they think of, stone walls and, Martin Scorsese sort of lighting, people just sitting around going, so, and it's not like that. They're like regular hospitals. So if you go to Messina, I mean, of course, when you go to Thane and Alibag, they are in a dilapidated state, but it's, people don't understand that, for people with mental problems, you need to have a hospital that caters to mental problems. So this is not really an asylum the way you think of Broadmoor or something like that. So I do a set on, trying to masturbate in a mental hospital. And it's really an escapade because you don't have any doors on the toilet. So, and then there's a person whose entire job, his entire career is around watching you use the toilet. So, they don't allow you to go on your own. So every time you go to the toilet, you got to go ask this person, and then they will come with you.
Yeah.
And they're very professional. So he's not just an orderly. His entire career is built on the fact that he watches people shit.
Oh my God! So how do you masturbate in an institution?
Okay, fine. So you wait for everyone to sleep, thinking that might work. So, but the beds are like really next to each other because there's no space in Bombay. There are more people with mental problems in hospitals. So your beds are literally next to each other. The beds in the corridor also. And so you probably think you could do it in the night once everyone's asleep. But unfortunately, the medication does something to you. So you're out in flat 6 minutes after you finish your dinner and you have your night medication. And if that doesn't work, then the medication causes something, that's even worse, which is erectile dysfunction. So, it's the worst.
Totally defeat the purpose.
It's the worst experience ever, but it's also kind of like, it's the worst experiences make for a good comedy set. So.
So, why do you guys use stand-up comedy, and why do you think it works better than any other form of medium?
So I think, like for a lot of years now, especially in the mental health space, there have been awareness programs, but they're very, very boring and preachy, and they're very restricted to just like definitions and seeing how it manifests in people and what support they can get in terms of treatment. But comedy is really powerful because
satire always works.
Like even people like George Carlin, like when you see the stuff that he has to say, it is sarcastic and it shows a mirror to society. And here you have people who are actually experiencing it speak about it themselves, right? We're really sick and tired of people who are not experiencing it talk about it and give lectures on it.
Yeah, because it's very easy to read a depression definition, but to know that depression is not just my girlfriend left me so I'm depressed. And, it's a state that one gets into. It's a continuous loop, and it has a physical effect on you. So we generally think that number one, as far as stories are concerned, they're so unique that people who haven't heard of something that a person's gone through are going to be completely like, wow, we didn't know this. And people who do identify with it will totally identify with it. And and the stories can never be boring or sad or, they're just only going to be unique and good.
Great, thank you so much, and we look forward to the event on the 4th, right?
Yes.
So the event is on December 4th. It's in a completely accessible venue in Bandra called Daughters of St. Paul. And for those who want to get tickets, you can go to insider.in and type sex and sexability and you'll find it.
All right.